Welcome. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and you are an important part of our EWTN family. And we are so delighted that you have welcomed us into your home. We certainly would love to hear from you. So send us an email with your question or your comment to jimandjoy@ewtn.com. Well, today we will have back with us Dr. Abby Jorgensen. Now, she is a professor of sociology and healthcare ethics at St. Louis University, and she specializes in families and grief. And she's also a bereavement doula, and she supports families facing miscarriage, stillbirth, or infant loss, and leads Haven Bereavement Doulas. And this beautiful organization is a training organization for grief support. Sometimes when we have a pregnancy loss, we feel like we're so alone. No one cares, no one knows what to say, no one knows how to tend to the cry of our heart. She's also authored a beautiful book, and it's called A Catholic Guide to Miscarriage, Stillbirth, and Infant Loss. Compassionate Answers to Difficult Questions is available at ewtnrc.com. And you can always go out to her website, abbythesociologistdoula.com. Well, and you know, this was birthed up in how Abby so beautifully shared yesterday, you know, out of the ashes of her life with 3 pregnancy losses that she and her husband suffered, God raised this up, right? And so sometimes that's what happens. We get so close and God says, I'm going to do something beautiful out of this. And in the moment, in the time, you're thinking, God, you can't. My sorrow, my sadness, my misery, my heartache. But look what God has done. And she courageously said, here I am, Lord, use me.
That's so true. And Abigail also says, though, that you don't have to have lost a child through miscarriage, stillbirth, infant loss to understand and to minister. You may not know that experience, but we can stand under other people compassionately in an educated way, and that's what she's doing. She's equipping God's people to do the work of the ministry in the midst of bereavement and loss, and bring light and life and hope. Abby, the sociologist, doula.com. Go there. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Please don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, we're excited to have back with us on At Home Dr. Abby Jorgensen. Now, she is a professor of sociology and healthcare ethics at St. Louis University, and she specializes in families and grief. And as a bereavement doula, she supports families that are facing miscarriage, stillbirth, or infant loss, and she also leads Haven Bereavement Doulas. It's a beautiful organization for a training for grief support. And she's authored a beautiful book, A Catholic Guide to Miscarriage, Stillbirth, and Infant Loss, Compassionate Answers to Difficult Questions. And this beautiful book is available at ewtnrc.com. And go out to her website, abbythesociologistdoula.com. And there also, if you just Google Abby, she's got some podcast things that I got to listen to and hear you. And you think, I just want to hear some more information about all this. And so you're out there. You're not just at this university locked in with these students. God's putting you out to the world, and today you're on EWTN.
I love that I get to talk to so many different folks about things that really matter to people.
Yeah, and it's so needed, right?
Thank you for the opportunity to do that here.
So tell our family briefly, you know, kind of like what we talked about yesterday and your great hopes for the book.
Absolutely. So the book was set up based on questions that I was getting from clients for years of, why does the church say this? Why won't my priest give me the anointing, or give my child the anointing of the sick? Why can't I baptize my baby? Where do I go in the church if I'm looking for a support group? Things like that. And I compiled all the answers over the course of years, and then realized that I kept complaining about the fact that these answers weren't available to families somewhere. And one of my friends very wisely told me to stop complaining and do something about it. And so with the help of Ave Maria Press, we were able to put together this book, which answers those questions in a Q&A format, so that people who need one answer very quickly can find that answer, and people who want to sit with the whole book can read the whole book. So if you are the parish secretary who's answering the phone and someone says, I'm having a miscarriage, what do I do? Go to the sections for support people. They're there for you so that you don't have to figure this out on your own. If you are a priest who's wondering, how can I compassionately explain that I can't offer the anointing of the sick, there's a section in there for you. And if you're a lost family who's angry at God and has forgotten how to pray, there's a section in there for you. So my goal with the book was really to bring the answers to the families who didn't know where those answers were, but knew they had to be out there, that the church had to offer comfort and peace and resources, but they didn't know where to look. Hopefully this is a good starting place for them.
Yeah.
And your book has an imprimatur,
Yes.
because you deal with big chapters,
Yes.
God. So what do we know in our Catholic faith about God in relationship to suffering and to, babies passing away, and what's going on here? At the church, what the church does have available, what she can and can't do or doesn't do, why, and so you needed that imprimatur to say this is all kosher.
Right. It is.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great.
Which is important. Now, tell our family, what can the church do to support a couple that has had a pregnancy loss? What do we do? It's like we're all so afraid we're going to say the wrong thing or do something wrong that most times we do no thing.
All of us as church.
Right?
Yes.
All of us,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And I love how you phrase the question, Joy, because it's not, should I do something? It's what should I do, right? It's this impulse that we must do something. The thing I want to start off with in answering your question is the reminder that no matter who we are, we can do something about perinatal loss and about supporting families through miscarriage, stillbirth, and infant loss. When I started this work, I had had no losses of my own. That came later in my story. But there was this one moment where I had driven a friend to a DNC for a very loved, very wanted baby who had died several weeks before and really needed to be born. And she went in to her DNC, and I went and got her donuts, and I had a casserole in the back of my car, like the good Midwesterner that I am. And I gave her donuts and a casserole, drove her home, and I thought, if I'm the best, donuts and a casserole and me, and that's the best that society has to offer this woman, what are we doing wrong? And I just started Googling. I started reading books. I started looking up, what can I do to be a better support to someone in grief? You don't have to have had a miscarriage or a stillbirth or an infant loss of any kind. You don't even have to know a friend or a family member who has to be a support. The very first thing we can do is start with, I'm so sorry for your loss. That's a phrase that a lot of lost families won't actually hear as much as they deserve to hear it. So just starting off right away with that recognition, I am so sorry for your loss, is a beautiful gift we can give. Depending on our role with the family, there might be other ways we can support them. If you're a friend or a family member, bring a meal. Food is hard. Doing the work of cooking is hard. When you're in grief, that is the last thing you want to be thinking about. So bring a meal or send a gift card if you're far away so that they can get takeout. That caring for each other and our really basic needs is a beautiful gift we can give in grief. If you're a priest or a member of a parish or a representative of that parish, figure out what's available in your area and make sure that families have access to that. And this could be different depending on diocese, but if you go to my website, I have resources for you to figure out what's available there. And one other thing I want to say is we should keep following up. A lot of people think that if they have that first conversation, they say that they're sorry for the loss, they listen to the person for a little bit, their job is done. But really that grief for that family will continue. And so I keep a calendar where I write down when people have had losses so that every year I can text them or send them a card and say, I'm thinking of you and baby Rose today. I'm thinking of you and baby Michael today. And that consistency in keeping up with them is a beautiful gift. Another marker might be the 6-week marker. That's when a lot of families start to see their periods or fertility return. And to be alone in that is devastating. So the more that we reach out to the people that we know who have had a loss and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. How are you doing? Hey, I know grief is hard. How are you feeling these days? I think the better our community will be and the stronger our support will be as well.
And I think we, as human beings, you're the sociology major, is just to understand that we need to be better versions of ourselves, that we need to be good listeners, right? We just don't figure it out, just listen, or just sit and be with somebody.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can remember when my girlfriend lost her parents, and we went to the beach, and we sat there. Nobody said a word for 4 hours. We just sat there, and she just cried. And then we took up our chairs and we went out to dinner. And that was all she needed. She just needed somebody to sit there with her. And we need to listen. Just hear somebody's heart.
Yes.
Because you might be the only person that asks or cares or that is trying to throw her a lifeline to say, I'm sorry, I just want to hear your heart. And that's a gift. But we're all so busy, we're in our screens, we're doing what we're doing, and we're not taking the time to be better human beings, to love the way that God has called us to love and to care about our brother and sister.
I think you're so right. And I think we love to be able to fix things, to make things get better, to take away someone's grief. That's the dream, right? I've never been able to do this, and I've been doing that for a long time, right? I've never actually been able to solve this for someone because their baby will still be dead at the end of our conversation. But if I listen, that's the greatest gift I can give. So when people say, what should I say? I often say, I'm so sorry for your loss, and then maybe nothing. Then maybe just stop talking. Then maybe ask them, how are you doing? Or do you want to tell me about your child? The question I always ask myself and what I teach in trainings is, wait, why am I talking? If I am talking to make myself look interesting or to fix their problem, that's not actually helpful. I should be listening. I should be receiving their information, their story, and honoring their child.
So that's an acronym.
Yes,
right?
W-A-I-T.
Say it again, you went
Yes.
fast. I was
Oh,
thinking,
sorry.
I got to figure this out.
Yes,
Wait.
W-A-I-T.
Why
Why am I talking? And there are a lot of different reasons why I might be talking, but most of them are probably not to meet that person in their pain. And that's my call in that moment, is to meet that person in their pain.
What can people expect from the church as institution? And I know there's a lot more that could be done, sometimes not, but I mean like standard things that the church does know that she can do and offer to help comfort or to provide a ceremony or some kind of ritual, like, and so that we can know that, to say, this is what the church does. And some of it, so what can they expect?
Absolutely. So the naming and commendation right
Yeah.
is available to all families, no matter if you have a body, no matter if your loss was decades ago. The naming and commendation right is available to you. You might also be able to have a funeral or a burial, but that really depends on your situation, and that's a good question to ask your priest or a bereavement doula or someone that you know and trust. We also can seek hope from our church, and that's a huge gift. That idea of the resurrection, that idea that someday my children and I will be joined to Christ, that's huge, and that's not something we should push aside. There are other things that might be available to us in some dioceses and not others. This is a research project that I'm running, looking at how some dioceses provide, say, support groups and burial coffins and things like this, and other dioceses have a harder time doing that. But just know that at the very base level, the naming and commendation right is available, and that hope of the resurrection is available as well.
And you shared yesterday about how you get to parent that child, and the beautiful thing that you shared, and I know this to be true with our miscarried grandbabies, is they're intercessors, and they're praying for us. Like when we gather as a family, they're not physically there, but they're spiritually there, and that brings you in, and it brings you comfort that we are connected, and especially at the Eucharist in our Catholic faith, where heaven comes down and earth goes up, and we are one in this beautiful communion. There's comfort, there's healing, you're waiting for me, you're praying for mommy, you're praying for this pregnancy, you're praying for your brother or your sister. That's beautiful.
Yeah, how do I relate to my child now is like a really important question.
Absolutely.
And I think, we can get stuck of just thinking of our child at that point of loss. And that's how the child is all the time there and frozen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's complicated
Yes.
grief.
Yeah, it is.
How do you bring people along? everybody's grief is different. You don't want to pull people out of a place or something, but how do we move from that instant of that loss and what I saw and experienced, or not, maybe not move, maybe that's a part of the whole thing, into where that child is now? Because I think in terms of relationship and parenting, somehow, and it is a mystery, we've got to get to that place as well and deal with this human being that now has passed on as they are. You mentioned it's not it's their soul, but we do believe that they will be perfected and be fulfilled in their body as well as their soul. So just thinking, what are you hearing, or how do you lead people in this, continuing that relationship, not frozen in one moment?
I've had a lot of conversations with people about what they think their children look like or will look like in heaven. Because if your child was so tiny when they passed away, or if your child looked a certain way because of their genetic makeup, what might your child look like? And a lot of families come to me and ask, am I wrong? Am I committing some kind of sin to think of my child as a 5-year-old with pigtails? I write in the book about Veronica, a 5-year-old with pigtails. Am I wrong to think of my child like that? We don't really have an answer. We don't really know what our bodies will look like in heaven, right? What our children's bodies look like in heaven now, if they're there. But the idea of having some kind of connection isn't sinful in and of itself. So often I encourage families to bring that image to God and to say, Lord, thank you for this image. If this is of you, it is giving me so much peace. I appreciate it. If it is not of you, please remove it. And please let me find your comfort elsewhere, right? And just coming back to God in that conversation with all of our questions, because we don't know what bodies look like, right? We don't know what our relationship with our little ones' bodies will be. But we do know that there is a person who we can go to and ask that question and bring that confusion to as well.
Well, we're going to take a break in about a minute 30. But just right away, what do you want to say to priests, to deacons, to bishops about providing in this area, how important their role is, what they might do? Maybe you have a model of somebody who's doing it the right way. Because these are leaders, and people are, it's such a tender time, an important time for the church to have a response regarding what's available.
Yes. This is an incredibly difficult situation to walk into, and I know that most priests and bishops are dealing with so many different crises that so many different people are having. So my encouragement, or my ask, I guess, the thing I would like to beg of them is just to ask how they can help. I had a clergy member come up to me a few years ago at a conference and say, I'm so sorry, you kept talking about a C-section. I don't know what a C-section is. And the gift to me of being able to say, oh, I got you. 1/3 of babies in the United States are born by C-section. Like, let me help you know what your families that you're serving are going through. Like, let me help you understand this. That was such a gift to me, and I hope that was a gift to him too. So if you have a question about what something is, how something works, what's available, don't hesitate to reach out to the people who know, whether that be medical professionals, Catholic bereavement doulas in your community. I would love to help empower priests to feel more confident when they're supporting families, because their pastoral role is so needed.
We're going to take a break at this point. We'll have a few more minutes, and I know you'll have some great words to speak to our people. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Please don't go away. Continuing our conversation with Dr. Abby Jorgensen, a Catholic guide to miscarriage, stillbirth, and infant loss. We just have several minutes left, and I'm not going to ask you a question, so I'm going to turn it over to you, because you have so much experience in this area. What's on your heart? What do you want to say to God's people?
I appreciate that. My hope is that everyone who's tuning in right now can think of one way that they're called to minister to families in their life who are impacted by perinatal loss. We know that 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in loss. That is devastating. That means that every one of us just in this room alone, right, we know that just our 2 families have been touched by loss. And if you're watching this, then chances are your family has also been very proximately touched by loss. So not any one of us has to solve all of the problems that come up, has to do all of the things that come up, but each of us, I believe, has a call to minister to those families who experience loss in some way. So maybe you make an amazing freezer meal. Can you start doing that when a family in your parish has a miscarriage? Maybe you are an excellent sympathy card writer. Think of what it would mean to a family whose loss is never recognized in any other way to receive a sympathy card at the passing of their child. Maybe you're a woodworker. Perhaps you will carve little coffins for the families in your parish who don't have another way to put their baby to rest. Or maybe something is tugging on your heart listening to me describe bereavement doula work, and maybe you're starting to think, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could actually make this part of my job to minister to families. And if that's true, I really hope those people reach out to me at abbythesociologistdoula@gmail.com, because I would love for us to see more Catholics who are equipped and ready to go into someone's suffering without looking back in this area. But whatever that is, whether this needs to become your job, that's your calling, or if you just need to make a few more freezer meals every year, each of us can minister to people in some way, shape, or form. And I really hope that my book gives more ideas of how people can do that. I am also happy to chat with people over email or the phone if people have questions. We can really make a difference in how the church supports families through perinatal loss. And it just takes each one of us answering our own little call, whatever that might be.
Yeah. If there's a group or a priest or a bishop that's saying, I want to hear more from you face to face, do you travel, you go out, you speak?
I do. I got to do a book tour this summer and meet so many different families, so many different clergy members, so many seminarians who are ready and willing to run into other people's pain. And I love that part of my job. I love getting to help other people feel equipped, confident, comfortable doing these really difficult things.
And if they do nothing, they just go to ewtnrc.com and order your book and then give it to their priest.
Absolutely.
And say, Father, if there's anything, read the book. If there's anything you want me to do, I'm at your beck and call. Let's do something in our parish.
And if that feels awkward, I actually have a script on my website, a couple different scripts that you can print off and put in your priest's name and give him with the book. So.
Perfect.
Abby, thank you so much for being with us and for this great work that you do. Wonderful book that you've written, and your heart to help equip people, every person, everywhere, for this compassionate work of ministry. So thank you so very, very much. Welcome to the EWTN family. A guide to a compassion answers to difficult questions and answers. A Catholic guide, specifically Catholic, miscarriage, stillbirth, and infant loss. You're an important part of this EWTN family. We walk these things through together. You're never alone. Christ is with you, God's with you, and you're always at home with Jim and Joy. Bye now.